My sister chose her long-term boyfriend over me. Years later, she found his hidden recordings. I'm posting this here because I don't know where else to put it, and because writing it all out feels like the only way to make sense of how completely my family was dismantled by one person who never raised his voice and never once looked like the villain. My older sister Emily is 4 years older than me. Growing up, she was my anchor. We weren't identical, but we were close in the way siblings are when they've survived the same house, the same parents, the same unspoken rules. Our parents valued appearances, calm, success. Feelings were fine as long as they didn't inconvenience anyone. Emily learned to thrive in that environment. I learned to disappear when things got tense. Still, she always protected me. When we were kids, she spoke for me when I couldn't. When we were adults, she was the person I called when I needed grounding. We weren't inseparable, but we were solid. Then she met Mark. At first, he seemed like a relief. Emily had dated men who were unreliable or immature. Mark was none of those things. He was calm, well-spoken, successful. He remembered birthdays. He brought wine to dinner. He asked our parents thoughtful questions and made them feel important. They adored him almost immediately. I did too at first. What I didn't notice early on was how he positioned himself. How he listened just a little too closely. How he remembered details not to be kind, but to be precise. How he answered questions for Emily before she could speak. If someone asked Emily how work was going, Mark would say, "She's been under a lot of pressure lately," before she answered. Emily would smile and nod. I told myself it was just closeness. Just familiarity. The first time something felt wrong was at a family dinner. I mentioned a stressful work trip, nothing dramatic, just venting the way people do. Mark smiled and said, "That's not really stress. That's poor planning." Everyone laughed lightly. Emily laughed too. I felt embarrassed, but I brushed it off. One comment didn't mean anything. I told myself I was being sensitive. But then it kept happening. Mark corrected me casually, reframed my words, explained my own thoughts back to me in a way that made me sound less confident. When I disagreed with him, he'd smile and say things like, "You'll understand when you have more experience." Emily never contradicted him. I stayed with them one weekend after they moved in together. Their apartment was immaculate, almost sterile. That night, while Emily was in the shower, Mark poured himself a drink and sat across from me. "You know," he said casually, "Emily worries about you." I looked up. "About what?" "She feels like you don't really have direction. That you lean on her emotionally." My stomach dropped. "I don't think that's true," I said. He shrugged. "I'm just telling you what she's told me. I think it would be healthier for both of you if you were more independent." When Emily came back, I didn't say anything. I didn't want to start something. I didn't want to sound jealous or defensive. That silence mattered more than I knew. Over time, Emily changed. Slowly enough that I doubted myself. She became more careful with her words. When I joked, she glanced at Mark first. When I vented, she'd listen, but later I'd hear his phrasing echoed back through her. "Mark thinks you overanalyze things. Mark says emotional reactions don't help. Mark believes boundaries are important." It felt like I was no longer talking to my sister directly. Everything went through him. Then came the holidays. We were all at our parents' house. The conversation turned to careers, and I mentioned I was thinking about changing fields. Mark laughed, not loudly, just enough. "That's a terrible idea," he said. "You're not really a risk taker. You'd fail." The table went silent. I looked at Emily. She said nothing. Something inside me broke. I asked him why he thought it was okay to speak to me like that. He said he was just being honest. Emily told me I was making things awkward and taking it personally. I excused myself and locked myself in the bathroom, shaking. That wasn't just an insult. It was a test. And he'd passed it. After that, I stopped reaching out as much. Emily didn't reach out either. Weeks turned into months. When we spoke, it was tense and shallow. Then Emily called to tell me Mark had proposed. I congratulated her. I meant it. But the wedding planning made everything worse. I wasn't included in decisions. When I offered help, she declined. When I asked questions, she said Mark had everything under control. I found out through our mother that I wasn't going to be a bridesmaid. When I confronted Emily, she said Mark thought a smaller bridal party would be better. I asked her why everything was suddenly his decision. She accused me of making it about him, of being jealous, of not supporting her happiness. That was the first real fight we'd ever had. I told her how he spoke to me, how he undermined me, how I felt erased. She told me I was overreacting and projecting. She said if I couldn't support her relationship, maybe we needed distance. So we took it. I attended the wedding as a guest, smiled in photos, left early. After that, Emily disappeared from my life almost entirely. Years passed. I heard about her life secondhand. The house they bought, the promotions Mark got, the vacations they took. Emily stopped showing up to family events unless Mark was with her, and even then she stayed close to him, rarely engaging. Then, years later, she called me in the middle of the night. She was sobbing. Mark had been cheating. Not once, not briefly, for years. Emily left him, filed for divorce, moved out. I thought that was the worst of it. It wasn't. Few days after separation, Emily went back to the apartment while Mark was at work to collect the last of her things. She was looking for old journals, childhood photos, anything that still felt like hers. In the back of the closet, taped inside a shoebox, she found an unlabeled external hard drive. She almost didn't open it. What stopped her was the folder name, Personal. Inside were dozens of folders, neatly dated. Subfolders labeled Conversations, Reflections, Patterns. The first audio file was her voice, crying. Then Mark's, calm and measured, telling her she was reacting emotionally. She listened to more. Arguments she remembered, but cut short. Moments missing context. Conversations she didn't remember at all. Then she found a folder with my name on it. Inside were recordings of conversations I didn't know were recorded. Family gatherings. Phone calls. Moments I thought were private. After each recording, Mark had added commentary. She's emotionally dependent. She destabilizes Emily. Distance is necessary. Emily said that was when she realized the truth. Mark hadn't just been reacting to conflict. He had been documenting it, building a narrative. She kept digging and found a text file titled Risk Management. It listed people in her life and how they affected her emotional regulation. My name was at the top. Emily copied everything and took it to her lawyer. The recordings backfired spectacularly. Because once reviewed in full, they showed not an unstable woman or a volatile sibling, but a man obsessively cataloging control, recording people without consent, curating evidence. The judge was not sympathetic. Mark lost his bid for favorable asset division, lost credibility, lost standing. But the consequences didn't stop there. Word spread, quietly at first, then louder. Friends compared notes. An ex reached out to Emily with eerily similar experiences. Former coworkers admitted Mark documented conflicts at work too. One recording surfaced during an unrelated legal dispute. It didn't go viral. It didn't need to. Mark was quietly let go from his firm months later, officially for restructuring. Unofficially, no one wanted a liability who treated people like case studies. Emily came to my apartment the night the divorce was finalized. She apologized again. Not dramatically, just honestly. I didn't lose you all at once, she said. I gave you up in pieces. We're rebuilding now. Slowly, carefully, with boundaries that go both ways. Some days still hurt. Some days feel almost normal. But at least now, the truth is complete. And Mark? He didn't just lose his marriage. He lost control of the story. Update. For those asking, no, Mark never apologized. He never reached out. The last thing I received from him was a single email from an unknown address that read, "You were always the variable I couldn't fully control." I think that sentence explains everything. And that's the part I'm still learning how to live with.